In the name of Allah, most merciful, most compassionate. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Dear students, let's plead Allah to save us from all epidemics, including coronavirus, COVID-19. Let me introduce myself. I'm Assistant Professor Inas Abdul-Munem. I will study with you novel in this course, your first course, for the students of Al-Iraqia University in the College of Arts Translation Department, third year only. Of course, this is an introductory lecture to your subject novel. What is a novel? Do you know what is a novel? Have you heard of a book called Alice in Wonderland? Alice in Wonderland is a novel. It is a novel. That cartoon, maybe you think it's only a cartoon. In fact, it's a novel. But it has certain qualities, certain characteristics, let's say. Like what? Surf the dictionary, look up in the dictionary for a definition of the word novel. You will find this definition. You will find that it is a fictitious prose narrative representing character and action. This definition includes the characteristics of a novel. There are other definitions, longer definitions. This is one of the simplest ones. If a novel is a fictitious work or a fictitious book, what is fictitious? What is fictitious? From fiction. What does it mean? What does the dictionary mean by fiction? Imaginary. Something imaginary. A book that presents imaginary ideas, or not ideas, imaginary events. When you say imaginary, you should certainly indicate something fantastic, quixotic, something fanciful, visionary, the opposite of real, the opposite of real, not real, unreal. So it is, a novel is something imaginary. Prose. What is a prose? Prose indicates a writing or a speaking that is without metrica structure. You studied poetry in the first year, and poetry includes meter, rhyme, rhythm and rhyme. A novel does not include meter. It is a writing or something spoken without meter. This definition is a prose. This question, this sentence, what is written here is prose. But a novel, the language of a novel is like this kind of language, but of course it is not. It does not explain something like what I'm doing here. It is something imaginary, and what I'm telling you on this slide is not imaginary. We are explaining, explaining the term novel. Let's agree now that a novel is a book that is imaginary, without meter, narrative. What does it mean? What does narrative mean? Narrative, from the verb narrate. Narrative means a story, a story. So a novel is a story, but of a book length, not a short story. There is a story in a novel. What I expect to find in a novel, I expect to find the story. Do you remember Charles Dickens's Oliver Twist? Oliver Twist, this book that you studied in the fifth secondary year. Oliver Twist is a novel written by Charles Dickens. Oliver Twist includes fiction, imaginary characters, imaginary events. It is a book that is written without meter. It is a prose, plain writing, and it is a story. There is a story in Oliver Twist. The book that you've studied, or the summary of Oliver Twist that you've studied, represented to you characters and action. Characters indicates, what does it indicate? Persons, men, women, children, animals, maybe a tree, maybe a place. There is a character in a novel that does something, says something, and this character is involved in action. You see you read, because in a novel you read, you don't watch, you don't hear. You should read the prose of this book to understand it, to know what are these characters, what do they do. These characters and their actions, their doings, reveal to you how do they think, how do they feel, what are their ideas, are they good or bad, evil, matured, naive. What I'm saying here means that to understand the characters and action of a novel, to understand the ideas of any novel, we have to start first reading the text itself. The text is the book. By a text, I mean the book itself. In this course, your first course, you have 2 novels. Your syllabus contains 2 novels. And any work of art, whether a novel, a poem, a play, tragedy or comedy, is called a genre. Genre. A genre, a type. So a novel is a type of literature. It is a literary work. And this genre, this literary work, has elements. Let's take 5 elements of novel. 5 elements of novel that represent to us the events of this work of art, the action and the characters and the events of this work of art, of this literary work. What are these elements? What do you think? What can be an element of a novel? are some of these words or terms can be? Can some of these terms be an element? Let's see. Let's see here. What are the components or elements of a novel? You should have, the first element is a plot, then characters. Another element is conflict, setting, resolution. A plot indicates a story. The story, the story of the novel. Tell me the story without details. For example, what's the plot of Oliver Twist? The plot of Oliver Twist indicates the main event of that work, of that book. We can say the plot of Oliver Twist, or the novel, if someone asked you, what is the plot of Oliver Twist? I've never, what is this book? Can you tell me about it? You may say that the novel follows the journey of the titular character Oliver Twist, or it presents the life of Oliver Twist. Oliver is an orphan who spends his childhood at an orphanage with too many children and too little food. This is the plot. You can say it in a different way, of course, but simply the main events in the novel. The plot is the main events in a novel. These main events happen to characters. Characters, as I've told you in the previous slide, can be a man, a woman, a child, can be an animal, or a place. These characters play their roles. They present a role. Every character has his own role. The role of Oliver Twist, for example, is the role of a victim, victimized child. He is passive, the child is passive. He does nothing to help himself or to defend himself. But, and this is his role. This is the role of Oliver, the orphan child. The plot, the events of a plot happen in a certain place and a certain time. You can find this with the opening of the book. The writer tells us the setting, the place, or the time, or both of them, of his own work. The setting of Oliver Twist is in early 19th century. This is the time, early 19th century, where in England, this is the place, and so on. These characters are involved in a conflict. What is a conflict in literature? Conflict in literature, in a novel, indicates a clash, a struggle between two opposing forces, and this clash, this struggle creates the narrative of the story. For example, a conflict with external forces, a conflict with an internal force, a conflict with the self. One may be in conflict with himself. One may be in conflict with others. A conflict can be with the environment. A conflict can be with the supernatural. So it can be an internal battle or an external battle. So, and this conflict is often the most powerful element in a work of art, in a novel or in literature. Resolution. What does it mean? A resolution is the end of the story. When does it occur? It occurs at the end of the story when you learn what happens to the characters after the conflict is resolved. After the conflict is resolved. Can you give an example to Oliver Twist, for example? The resolution in Oliver Twist: Fagin and his band of thieves are caught one by one and hung. Oliver Twist received his inheritance and lives in the countryside till old age, happily ever after. This is the resolution of Oliver Twist. This is the end of the novel that you've studied, its summary in the secondary school. And these elements are the essential elements in a novel. And they keep the story running. The story goes on, continues smoothly, and allow the action to develop. The action develops in a logical way that the reader can follow. So these three elements integrate to present to you the action that interests you to go on reading and to follow the events. What do you need in this course to go on well in novel? You need the text. You have two texts. You need the text of the novel to read the text itself, not a summary, the book, and you need also an Oxford English Dictionary, very helpful in studying literature. This is the end of the lecture. I wish you the best.